So the lesson here is make sure you're profitable from day zero.
Yeah, pay yourself zero and then just get money coming in.
Yeah.
As an engineer, it's great because if I go to an investor, right, and I'm an Irish person, I'm like, I'm going to build a business in Kenya. They're like, probably not, mate. Probably not going to happen. I don't see it. Then Jack Dorsey came in.
Yep.
Like a room of 20 of us, he spent like 3 hours with us, like looking at our apps and like commenting on the design. I'm like, this is kind of ridiculous. And as a person who's like at home reading TechCrunch, like these things are a million miles from where I am.
People used to read about online, now they're sitting in front of you, like going through your app and giving you feedback.
It's ridiculous, completely ridiculous.
Do you think that exposure was important for you?
It definitely, and if you're a founder or you're considering being a founder or you're pivoting or whatever it is, if you have the fundamental belief that things will be, some of this is obvious, like, will a digital bank be big in 10 years? Yeah. Like, so it's like, do you have a belief that people, you can get behind and believe in, and then you can have others get behind? Because.
So you came first to Kenya.
Yeah.
Okay, and you said, okay, there's 14 microfinance bank licenses issued here in Nairobi, in Kenya, and you try to get one.
I very naively thought we'd be the 15th.
Yeah. And then what happened?
Oh Lord, this is like probably the worst.
What's up everybody, we're out here once again in Nairobi, Kenya today with the founder and CEO of Umba, Tiernan. Tiernan, welcome to the Builder Africa show.
Benji, thanks for having me.
I'm super excited for today. It'll be great to learn a little bit more about your journey. We're gonna go talk about starting off in Ireland, going to the United States, going to Kenya, having the challenges and difficulties in building in Kenya, all the way to launching a digital bank and acquiring a digital bank afterwards in Kenya as well, and launching a company in Nigeria, and now back to growing and raising over $18 million to where they are today. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's great to be here, and known you for a while now, so it's good to get this. I've been following the series, and I think it's a very good insight into what I was building. So I think what you're doing is actually a great thing for everyone else to watch. So I'm happy to be involved.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. Let's start at home.
Okay.
So Ireland.
Yes.
The land of Irish potatoes, the land of, great, different types of athletes and sports. Well, depending, debatable.
We had a couple of great years in soccer, early 90s, and then it hasn't been as good recently. Yeah.
And so tell me about the journey, the upbringing in Ireland.
Yeah. So basically I was born in County Clare in Ireland. So it's on the west coast. By the Atlantic Ocean, basically. So Cliffs of Moher, if you know those, like big, massive cliffs getting beaten by the Atlantic Ocean. And then obviously lots of castles all around the place. So my first job was actually in Bunratty Castle in this 1500s castle. I was washing dishes for the summer, and it was very, very good. And but then, grew up in the countryside, and then went to school in Limerick. And actually one kind of thing that's quite interesting in terms of like fintech is that the Stripe guys also went to school in Limerick, just across the city from us. So it's a pretty small city, like 50,000 people.
Wow.
So there is a little bit of fintech going on there beneath the radar. And then, that was it. And then I went to Dublin for college, went to Trinity College Dublin, which was a really good experience because it's a college that used to be, at the time, it was far away because when Dublin was like a Viking settlement, they build by the river, right? So then where the college is actually kind of south of there, at the time it was quite far away. It was called Queen's College because the Queen obviously built it when the British were in town, let's say.
Yeah.
But what's happened is the city obviously grew south. So now it's actually like a college in the middle of the city. Oh, wow. And it actually gets like tourists and stuff coming in because we have this Book of Kells, which is a very old book, hand painted by monks like hundreds of years ago. Wow. So actually you're in a college that has like tourists walking around as you're going to school because it looks like Hogwarts, half the buildings.
Oh wow.
Yeah, no, it's very, very cool. Like the museum building where I did a lot of lectures is I think from the 1600s or something like that.
Wow.
So yeah, I really enjoyed my time there.
So by the way, that's a shout out if anybody is going to Ireland. Tiernan is offering free tours
as
well. So feel free to reach out to him and after you've signed up and use Umba, and then he'll offer you a free tour. Separate plug for that one.
That is a fact. It's actually funny you mention that. So if you're a student, you get a discount into the museum, into the Book of Kells. So me and my friends used to like find tourists and be like, if you split the difference with us, we'll bring you in.
Oh, wow.
So we're like, just make a bit of money by bringing people in. But I guess we probably shouldn't talk about that too much. But that was a nice little scam we had going back in the day, you know?
Yeah, affecting a lot of revenue right there.
Yes, it wasn't bad. You know, when chicken rolls are €2, you know, it's not too bad.
Yeah.
So that was college. And then
at college you studied software engineering, right?
Yeah, I did.
What got you into software engineering?
Yeah, so the way it works in Trinity is you basically do general engineering for 2 years, and then you specialize. Sorry, but the writing was on the wall in terms of where things were going, right? So you can do civil, mechanical, electronic, computer, and I did electronic and computer. But you know, at that point, that was, let's say, I made that choice in 2009. Think about it this way: 2008, huge crash in properties. Like civil engineering seemed like a really bad idea.
Yeah.
Obviously, computers was the way to go, but I never even considered any of the other ones because I was heavily interested in just software, where things were going. I was following that industry very, very closely, but was from the outside really. It wasn't. I was doing some web development, but really not any deep kind of computer engineering. So I kind of went towards it. I wouldn't say like I loved the subjects.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I just was very passionate that that's where things were going. That's where the jobs were. That's where the exciting companies.
Like, you know, as somebody who's might be watching this podcast right now, maybe somebody's about to go into university, or maybe in their second year of university and thinking, hey, look, I'm studying civil engineering right now, but I actually am more curious about software engineering. How do you think about, like, where did that curiosity come from for you to consider software engineering?
Yeah, well, I guess it went back a while. Like I did like an e-commerce store for my dad's company way back in the day when I was like maybe 12 or, no, a little bit older, maybe like 16, 17, because I wanted to digitize that business, which really actually didn't need to be digitized. It was perfectly fine.
Yeah.
But it was just exciting. I was using Magento, so kind of like, you know, drag and drop stuff. I didn't need to code, but it started to put stuff together. And obviously things were coming online. There was Amazon, there was all that kind of stuff. Even when we were in like first year college, we had what was called Bebo, which is the early version of like Facebook, right? And that was like another site that everyone's going towards, and things are moving online. Like I think our generation went from, you know, no phones to 3210s to iPhones over like growing up. You know what I mean? So I just was like, this is where it's headed. And was really, really keen to get in there. And as a person who was like working with the kind of like Magentos and like the e-commerce store software you can configure, there was always like, oh, write plugins in PHP. And I was like, I don't actually know PHP. So like, I need to get in and start learning this. So that was a big part of it. And then like, you know, like around that, it was like early iPhone times, right? So, and when I started into full-time computer engineering, you choose your thesis in like third year, right? And then they give you like a list of stuff, and it was just like ridiculously not interesting. You know what I mean? Completely just divorced from the world of where everything is. Everyone's over here writing like PHP, JavaScript, HTML, or whatever, and then like they're like, do you want to do like database transaction locking thesis? I'm like, absolutely not. Like, not a chance. I'm not interested. I'll use a database, but I'm not building one. So I went to my advisor and I was like, look, you know, iPhone SDK has opened up. It was like SDK 3. I think it was iOS 3 when it opened up the SDK. And then Android was starting to come on the scene. Google was like, okay, we need to catch up here. So I said, I want to do in a thesis in mobile development. He said, fine, go and propose something. So I looked around and I found that there was a way to write code in one language, which was Qt and C++, and actually run it on multiple platforms. So you could write an example app that would run on your Mac, on a Windows machine, on Linux, which was Android. Couldn't get it to work on iOS because it's a bit more locked down. But that was the kind of the proving point of that. It actually ran on Symbian, which is an old operating system.
That one.
Nokia, like N95.
Installing
jars on your phone.
So we all download those Nokia jar apps and like, would share it on like to other people on file shares.
It was so clunky, like getting into the file system and installing it, like horrendous times.
All those different websites, wapking.net, waptrick.
You know it,
gosh, good times.
Oh man, that was it. That takes me back. Like, so I was like, this is where it's going. And Symbian was on the way out. Like Nokia was clearly screwed. And then Microsoft had to come in, kind of Trojan horse bit or whatever. But it ran on those phones which were still out there. But I remember getting like cracked versions of Garmin and stuff, you know, like here's all the French maps. Like, I don't need this.
So well, during that time, this is what, 2009, 2010?
That's 2010, yeah.
Okay.
I was in third year,
So 2010 was also a big year for you, because that was the first year you went to Africa.
Very good. Very good, yeah.
And why did you, like, what was the first trip you took to Africa? And tell me about the first time you came to the African continent.
Yeah, so a really good friend of mine put together a trip for a group of us, and like I really was just like in college, whatever. I really had no kind of I didn't really have like much of I wouldn't say it was a big thing I prepared for or whatever else. She said, look, putting this together, lots of great people. I invited some of my friends along as well, and kind of set off for East Africa in the summer of 2010, and it was like amazing, like completely blew my mind because came out here, flew into Nairobi. Spent some time here, went to Dar es Salaam, and then went climb Kilimanjaro in your home country. Which was ridiculously cool. Like, on a trip, sometimes trips kind of, you spend a week and it feels like it flew by. We spent like 6 days on that mountain and it felt like, a month. It was just incredible.
Wow.
Like you're going up to 4,000 meters, coming sleeping at 3,000, going up again. And like, you're at the top of a snow-capped mountain that is, it's the tallest freestanding mountain in the world. So all around you just see this thing out of nowhere coming out of the ground, unlike the ranges like the Alps, right? It's like lots of this. This is just one
massive
mountain. So it was really, really cool. And then we came back down, went to Zanzibar, went to Stone Town, and like saw just so much of East Africa that summer that I really fell in love with because it was a couple of things.
I have to ask a very important question on this one, right? Zanzibar or Diani? Answer very carefully.
Oh, so this is like past me and current me, right? So current me can get to Diani in like an hour from here, at the drop of a hat from Wilson Airport. Like, so that's the one that currently is the option. But like, I spent I think 2 weeks on the beach of Zanzibar, and it was incredible. Like, so I think Zanzibar, because it's more exotic, I'm going to give it to you.
Yes.
I'm going to give it to you.
Yes. Yeah. Finally, somebody said the truth on this show.
I just hope I'm welcome back to the east coast of Kenya now,
Yeah. No. So they spent a couple of weeks in Zanzibar. So that was the first time you got to the continent.
That was East Africa for the summer. Yeah. It was incredible.
For the summer, so that was the World Cup.
Yes. So the World Cup came to South Africa 2010. So it was amazing because like I felt like the whole world was looking at us. And even though we're in East Africa watching it on like small TVs, all like, the stuff was going into like the African continent, whatever else. It felt cool to be here for that massive moment for Africa. So that was like really, really cool. And every night we'd be like watching the 3 games or whatever that were on. So that also was just a beautiful coincidence that happened in 2010,
So when you came on this first trip to Africa, what got you curious about the continent?
It was a couple of things.
Like, do you know that you'd move here? Do you know that you'd live here? Do you know that you'd ever build a business here?
No, I had no idea. I had none. Like, genuinely, I was like, this is an amazing... What I had said coming back was like, I'm coming back here like next summer or whatever. Like you do in these things, right? Like, I'm coming back. That was incredible. There's so much more to see. You're scratching the surface of a few things. And then like life comes along and you go back to college and you're doing whatever, going to final year, I think it was that year. So the next year I didn't come back or whatever. But... It was in the back of my mind, and from time to time I had friends like, oh, I went kite surfing in like Tanzania or whatever else, and you're kind of like, oh God, I got to get back down there again. It would be really, really cool. So, but no, that was it for a while. But the thing that I think that really I thought was different here than a lot of places was, number one, it was just like the culture. There was just so much culture in terms of like how far it goes back and how many different traditions, languages, tribes, like all this stuff that people tell you really openly. They're like, what's your background? And they'll tell you like, here's where I'm from, here's my background. We're from like around Mount Kenya, whatever else. And this is my mother tongue and whatever else. And you just learn all this stuff that really I had no idea about. Right. And then there was also like, in some ways, kind of like Ireland, I think people say this, like everyone's very, very friendly. Like I remember, this is more recent history, but like coming through the airport and like the cleaner's just like, welcome to Kenya. I'm like, you know what I mean? The guy cleaning up in the airport, it's like that kind of vibe of people are just happy that you're coming here. It's really, really cool. It's really, really welcoming. Where it's not every country is like that. You come in and you feel like people are really happy to have you here. And then just like the natural beauty. You can go from where we are today, in an hour you could be in like the Masai Mara, you could be on the coast, you could be, in Kilimanjaro. Like, there's just this diversity of things and natural beauty where it's like volcanic mountains, whether it's beautiful oceans. So like that is something that I think is quite unique to here. And it's relatively, like I'm finding new places every month that I go to, something that I've never been to before. It's a really vast country, and even just East Africa, there's so much to see here that is unlike I think other places where it's really well trodden. Everywhere is known and understood. Like there's obviously places that are known, like Masai Mara or whatever else, the coast, but then there's places like, you've I was at Lake Baringo 2 weeks ago, right? Covered in flamingos.
Wow.
Really cool place. Never heard of it in my life.
Yeah.
And then like we're there for a weekend, and it was like, you know, I'm still discovering that stuff all the time. So I think that's what really I found really exciting and interesting, that you can kind of go and explore this entire beautiful part of the world, you know.
So back to like your journey. So after uni, you co-founded a company. Umba's your third company.
Third company.
And then you went to the United States to be a CTO of a company there.
Yeah.
And couldn't get a visa, if I understand correctly, to work. Is that correct?
Exactly, yeah. So because I did that project in college, I got into mobile development then.
Okay.
Right. So then I started a company doing mobile development. Very simpler times, not venture backed. It made profits straight away, like lots of things we've never heard of before. Right. It's just like on month one, because it was just, you know, selling apps into companies around Dublin, right? So, and this is, you know, one of the big four law firms had us do like their college recruitment app. We had a prototype of like the largest rugby app in Europe. We built that. And we did some other really cool projects. We stuck a webcam on a golf course and made an app for them. Lots of stuff we were trying. And then, but like we were getting paid for it, and it was good money at the time, right? Especially in college. You're like, you know, that any kind of money is fantastic, you know?
So the lesson here is make sure you're profitable from day zero.
Pay yourself zero and then just get money coming in. So that was really, really cool. And it was nice because I didn't have to think about coming out of college. I didn't think about getting a job. It was just like, okay, now I have this thing. But because at the time, there's not a lot of people doing mobile development in Dublin, right? It was early days. This is 2011, right? Still early generally. So people knew that I was like the mobile apps guy, you know? So then a friend from college, a guy called Alex, he basically called me up one day and said, this is no joke. I think this is fine for me to say this, but like, he's like, I've been accepted into an accelerator in the US, in New York. Product's great. Really cool idea. They loved it. I've no engineer. I can't build this. And he's in, like, he's looking for visas and stuff. And he goes, no way he's gonna be able to build this product. So he's like, you're gonna have to come with us to New York. And I was like, fine, but like obviously running this company, so I'm like, I'll go with you for like the 10-week program. It was like a Techstars, whatever. It was run by General Electric and OMD. So like, you're like, this is cool, it's pretty prestigious, you know, working out of, you know, Lower Broadway in the middle of Manhattan, like sounds pretty cool. And they're gonna pay us, which sounded like good money at the time. When I got there, realized it was terrible, which is fine.
That does New York prices are not
didn't get us very far. Did not. So I said fine, I'll go for it. But I was like, I'm coming back to to Dublin in August. I'll be back. I'll just do my 10 weeks. I did this accelerator, but because like they're so well connected, like GE and OMD, OMD's like a massive advertiser, like agency. They basically had Dennis Crowley, the guy who started Foursquare, and this is like huge in like 2012, right? It's like you're the mayor of, remember all this? And then Jack Dorsey came in, like a room of 20 of us, and he spent like 3 hours with us, like looking at our apps and like commenting on the design. I'm like, this is kind of ridiculous. And as a person who's like at home reading TechCrunch, like these things are a million miles from where I am.
People used to read about online, now they're sitting in front of you, like going through your app and giving you feedback.
It's ridiculous, completely ridiculous.
Do you think that exposure was important for you?
It definitely made me want to, I guess, break out of what I was doing in a way and go closer to somewhere where there was things. It felt like, okay, now I'm not the only person in the room who's making mobile apps. Right now, everyone is. And now I'm talking to these things. So it definitely made me want to break out of the kind of the bubble I was in into something bigger. Definitely. I just was like, I didn't know you could go and meet these people and they're so approachable. They're like, give me a text if you want to talk about your design updates, whatever. Kind of crazy. So definitely that opened my mind quite a lot. So that was why I stayed there afterwards. Right. I was like, okay, it was August. I'm like, I should really stick around here. We came second in that accelerator, second to Harvard. So not bad for the only Irish college in it. So we were like,
shout out to Trinity.
Shout out to Trinity. So we came second in that, and definitely you're like, you're hyped. But then honestly, crashed right back down to earth afterwards, because you're in this bubble. It's like you're back in school, right? You're like, everyone's like, work your elevator pitch, like, let's get your logo right, and like everything's beautiful. You know this, right? You're in the accelerator, everything's fantastic, right? And then you like slam into the real world, and you're like, okay, well, we need money. So I'm like, a person was offering us money, and we're like, great, let's take on that money. And then we're like, okay, we got to incorporate, we got to do lots of things. Then we're like, the visa thing came up. We're like, oh, right, well, let's get visas, let's like sponsor ourselves. We can raise some money. And they're like, no, that just doesn't work. You
Not
need
in
a business with X number of employees, X number of IRS returns and whatever. So then kind of realized that I would have to go and get a real job for the first time. So I went in, did some interviews, and I was very fortunate to get a job that right away got me like a H-1B, like a 3-year visa.
Oh, wow.
Because I was on like this 1-year thing, so like clock was ticking. And they got me a visa, which was amazing. That's the lucky thing about doing like engineering, was it wasn't hard to go in and get a job quite quickly, because it's a very like, it's a hard skill, so you can just like, I can do this for you or whatever else. So luckily there was jobs there, and they got the visa, so that kind of got me on the path of going towards like the next thing.
Wow. And so let's fast forward to where we are today. So you went to another company, you know, were there, and then talk to me about founding Umba. Where did that start from?
So
like you were in the States, and like randomly you decide like, okay, I'm going to start this company in Kenya. Like how does that just randomly pop up for you?
Yeah, so because of the circumstance, I ended up working for another company, right, a startup. I joined right after their Series A. They raised like 10 million, but that was never my intention, right? Started a company in Dublin, started a company coming to New York, and then I was like, oh, that's what I'll do. I'll run companies like CTO, whatever. And then, you know, you like working a normal job. But the visa thing does kind of lock you in. You're in for 3 years, and then I was like, I realized you got to get a green card to start a company. So I was like, I gotta do my time here. Right, which was fine. I was enjoying it. I was learning a lot. It's because I came in as like a solo engineer, right? Like a hacker. Like you do everything yourself. You don't work with other people. Just like slap it together. I'm sure if you saw my code in 2012, you'd be like, you know. So like working with a team. So I came in as like individual contributor to a company called Canary. We were like the original version of like the Ring, like the doorbell cams and the home security cams.
I see.
So when I got there, they didn't tell me that they couldn't get it to set up, and they basically hired me to figure it out, because it was like, how do I get the Wi-Fi details from like the phone to this device that like the Bluetooth chip isn't working on? So we sent it across an audio cable, long story short. But so I went as an individual engineer, and like I learned a lot, and luckily I did a couple of projects that were actually quite good. We put a lot of time into it. I ended up getting 2 patents with the US Patent Office as like the primary inventor, which was really, really cool, because it's expensive to do that. But they wanted patents, and they were happy to have me as the primary inventor. So that was like pretty cool. And then in classic startup land, I joined at like 30 people. My boss, who was like head of product, and then there was another engineering person, she left. And then they were like, well, you seem to be quite proactive in the like managing, organizing things. Do you want to just like take her job? And then like just these kind of things happen, and they ended up running their engineering team, which is kind of ridiculous. I'm like, you know, 27, I'm managing like 30 people. And I'm like myself feeling like complete, like, what's they call that again? What's the
imposter syndrome?
That's exactly what I had. Massively, but then over time you kind of grow into it. But you're kind of waiting for like, when's the gig up? Like, you know what I mean? When's a real person going to come in and do this?
Like, there's no real person coming into you.
It's still me. So I did that for, I guess it was like 2 years, and then the green card's coming. But the cool thing about it was we were venture backed. So there was a Series A, and then we did Series B and C. So I helped them, because I was running engineering, it's also the data team and the analytics team. And I was big on like SQL and reporting, all that kind of stuff, and they weren't very good at that, to be honest. Like every time a board meeting came along, it was like, find CSVs with sales numbers, find this, and it was a mess. Like just like join it all and do a report. And I'm like, we should invest in a way to do this easier. And they're like, no, we're fine, back to work. And then 3 months later, same problem. But learned a lot about reporting to the boards. We had Coastal Ventures and Two Sigma, like pretty big investors. We raised kind of 100 million over the time I was there. So like it's, the things are getting serious. I'm in the board meetings kind of reporting on data and figures and whatever else. And we're selling in Best Buy. We're selling in like big ticket stores, and like it's a pretty big business. So I learned a lot about the VC game. We grew to 120 employees, but then also I saw the downsides. Hardware startups became less cool as things happen in VC. GoPro had an IPO, didn't work out so well. People realized like hardware buying cycles are not iPhone level where you buy once a year. You buy a GoPro once every 5 years or once ever. Same with our product. You buy it once. So like VCs realized that, and then it was kind of like, oh, it's kind of harder to raise money now. And then they were struggling, but we stabilized and built a subscription model, and it all worked. That goes to say that to get us to where we are now, green card was coming in hot and fast, and I was like, brilliant. Like this is, I can kind of go and do my next thing. And I was you're looking at a couple of different things. I had done a couple of side projects over the year. Built a Spotify alarm clock. That was my my first one that I really wanted to scale, but like harder businesses are tricky. I wouldn't do it. And a couple other software kind of side projects along the way while I was working that job.
So you got this green card, you were working in the US, you did a bunch of side projects, and what got you to go to the African continent now again, to now build a company for the first time?
Yeah, so it was interesting. It definitely was like really keen to go and build a business now. And I felt like I'd gone from like really hacker kind of small company person to like managing a big team, like having to do the one-on-ones, having to go to VCs and like raise money. I felt like, you know, I could have a good go at this. Like some parts of that company were really well run, but some parts I was like, we could be much better. Yeah. Like, so I feel like I could do something now, and I've learned a hell of a lot over that 4 years. And then I just got really lucky. My co-founder was living in East Africa, and it was working for a payments business, and then was just like, there's a lot of interesting stuff happening here in payments, in banking, in fintech. And I was fortunate that when I was here in 2010, M-Pesa was like 3 years old, right? So, but it was still ubiquitous. Like, even 2010, everyone's using M-Pesa, right? So I remember being impressed of like paying like, you know, a Maasai guy in like full tribal wear, like paying him over M-Pesa. I'm like, this is so interesting. Yeah. We're years away from this.
Text-based USSD.
In Ireland. Yeah. 3210, you know, not smartphones. Yeah. And it's like, everything's booming. Smartphone adoption's on the rise. That was the big thing, right? I think at the time it was like 30% going towards 50. We're at like 65 now, right? So that's the unlock. Because I'm not a 3210 guy. Like I don't know how to build those kind of apps. Like I'm in the smartphone world. Yeah. So that's our unlock to the kind of population. And then for me, it was like, I could do something in the US. Sure, like build some fintech thing that makes a certain set of people's financial lives like a certain bit better, like 5% better, right? 5% of people make their lives like 5% better, or go big to a place that has like a 40% unbanked population, and like a lot of people are relying just on M-Pesa and haven't got a savings account or like a high interest savings account, or are paying lots of on like high interest rates or whatever else. Come to a market and make a big impact. Like look at what Nubank did in Brazil. Like it's one of the top 4 banks now. It's a public company. They came into a high interest rate environment and made a better service. So I was like, okay, do something minorly impactful in the US, or do something big here with a big vision, because there's not as much happening here. Kenya specifically, with the licensing environment so tough. There aren't digital banks here. Nigeria's a bit easier. So that was it. I was like, all right, this is perfect. So just got to work, started building, you know? And the nice thing is, like, you know, as an engineer, it's great, because if I go to an investor, right, and I'm an Irish person, I'm like, I'm going to build a business in Kenya. They're like, probably not, mate. Probably not going to happen. I don't see it. So the nice thing was that, you know, could build a business that had a couple of thousand customers, had data. I was just like we were putting in our own money.
So you've talked about this whole thing of, you know, across the African continent, you have this massive opportunity to make a large impact with what you're doing in the financial services space, and the impact you want to create, especially within enabling and economically empowering folks across the continent. You talked about the example of Nubank, what they did in Brazil at a large scale, and now they're publicly listed. And tell me about, as you know, you're probably toying around all these different ideas in your head, and probably half the people in your head are like, as you said, they're like, oh, an Irish guy building this company in Kenya, probably not, mate.
Exactly.
You know, so how did you get to the stage where, like, you know what, like, we'll figure this out. You know, I want to understand this problem better. And what advice would you have for people who are listening, who might want to quit their current job and start a company, but will tell you like, hey, Tiernan, I don't have the money, I don't have the time, like I don't have the ability to do that today, and I'm tied into this job because I need to take care of my family. While I'm passionate about fintech as well in, you know, another country, in Malawi, let's say, and I don't have the ability to just go back really quickly and figure it out.
Yeah, and look, it's a tricky question, right? Because I get that. There is the conflict of, there's the safety net and the responsibilities you have in your life that you have to support, and then there's the thing you really want to do. And, you know, at that time, you know, it was I guess I was fortunate in the way where, you know, everyone's got time, right, to do a bit of, you know, you can research. So it's tricky to get the business started, but to get the passion that there's something there. And for us, it was like, okay, smartphone penetration is growing very, very quickly. Android devices have gone down to like $20 in the second-hand market. This is getting quite affordable. The numbers are going up. A lot of numbers just publicly available. And now, like in the world of ChatGPT, like the world's your oyster in many ways, right? So that's probably gotten easier. And just getting conviction on like first principles thinking, right? So it's the current banks are, I would argue, adopting a strategy of digging up landlines. Right, that's the way I see it. If you're a family bank and you're opening 10 branches next year, I feel like you're a phone company digging up landlines, and you should be building cell towers, right? Because I fundamentally don't think that Africa's going to have like 100,000 branches across the continent in the next 10 years. No one does.
Yeah.
But banks are doing that as a strategy.
Yeah.
And our vision was that the smartphone's the unlock for everyone. It starts with, upper class, upper middle class, and it just works its way down like every technology, right? You've got smartphones being built in Kenya as of this year.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Things are getting cheaper. They always are. And the numbers are going up in your favor. And we did have people saying, well, what about the other 70% at the time? It's like, yeah, we'll get there, you know?
Yeah.
Let's build for the first and then we'll work our way along. Let the technology wave happen. So yeah, that was it. And in terms of Kenya, there's an interesting thing here about microfinance banks, right? So, and this is all publicly available information. It's on the Central Bank website. There's 14 microfinance bank licenses. In Nigeria, there's about 650. They got rid of like 100 earlier in the year, but like there's still hundreds. So they can be gotten, but in Kenya, it's very, very difficult. So there's also this world of like, that's why Kenya is quite underserved compared to Nigeria, because it has this licensing regime which is very, very strict. So there's obviously a really, really big opportunity here, which turned out to be a positive and a negative, as we found out as we got into getting a license. But those things gave me conviction. I think it's got to be first principles. Like, do you believe in 5 years there'll be a large or many large digital banks in Kenya? Do you believe that it'll be the incumbents? Is it going to be KCB, have a digital arm that really, really works? Or is it more likely to be like Tinkoff or Nubank or Chime or Revolut or Monzo or N26? There's a list of those. And fundamentally believes that it would be someone new to come in because the systems that those banks are using are a disaster. It's harder, I'd say, to fix what they're doing than it is to build what we're doing. Because it's, you know what it's like when data's everywhere, it's a mess. 24 different systems aren't speaking to each other. Like, I'd much rather start from the start. So that was just a fundamental belief. And if you're a founder or you're considering being a founder or you're pivoting or whatever it is, if you have the fundamental belief that things will be, some of this is obvious, like, will a digital bank be big in 10 years? Yeah. Like, so it's like, do you have a belief that people, you can get behind and believe in, and then you can have others get behind? Because often when you're a founder, you got a vision. You're not just pitching to investors. You're pitching sometimes starting off to your friends and family if you're quitting a job. You're actually telling like the parents or whatever, like, everyone, like, you got a good job. Like this is things are going good. Like, you shouldn't leave that. Then it becomes early employees or co-founders. That's the next person you're selling to. And you're selling possibly to investors or customers next. Depends on which way you go about it. But you're actually, the conviction you've built internally, you actually have to find also a way to share that and have people get behind that. Because there's a lot of contrarian views, that often don't get adoption because they're a little bit too contrarian, or the person cannot effectively get everyone else to follow along that view. So that's kind of the second part after you've done the research and the work, is the conviction. Because like you said, I'm raising a family, let's say, or whatever else. Your first sale is probably your spouse or your kids or whatever else. That's the first sale to convince them there's a good idea. So you've got to have, I think, a large amount of conviction. And I think as your responsibilities in life grow, your conviction needs to grow. You can have a small amount of conviction at 21 and do something, probably.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
And
like, I just finished whatever, I'm going to start this. But your actually conviction probably has to grow as time goes on.
So you came first to Kenya.
Okay.
And you said, there's 14 microfinance bank licenses issued here in Nairobi, in Kenya, and you try to get one.
I very naively thought we'd be the 15th.
And then what happened?
Oh Lord, this is like probably the worst year of the business, I would say. 2020, right? So COVID happened, obviously. That was a whole thing that was going on. We were so take a step back, built the platform, got the platform live.
And at this point, it was an app and a web-based service, or just an app-based service?
App.
Okay.
And right, take a step back as well. We're like credit-led neobank is what makes sense. You got neobanks like Revolut in Europe that are on like the debit side, like they're doing payments or whatever. You just need a lot of investors to give you a lot of money to do that kind of business. It's low revenue, but it's like you're getting a lot of, customers in a very bullish market, so they could do that. But we felt that the emerging market model was needed more, like the Nubank model or Tinkoff. So you got to start with big revenue and ability to get profitable, because I think the bar is higher for us here. you know, in terms of raising money. You've got to like have a pretty good business going. So did credit first. Credit's also the easiest thing to get licensed for. Think about it this way, right? If I'm a central bank and let's say I'm a credit provider, I lend money. If I got a business, essentially no one cares. Like the loans are probably kept or whatever.
Yeah.
If you're holding deposits and you've got a business, there's a huge problem for the government and the central bank.
Yeah.
Like, you know, let's say a couple of $1 million is gone, like FTX style. They don't want that. So the license bar is really, really high.
Yeah.
So we started the credit business very easily, like built the platform, registered the business, got the Safaricom tills, got the SMS stuff going, you know, all that stuff. Got it running, had a couple of thousand customers in Kenya, had raised money. We raised money, we're like, okay, we've proven that credit can work. We're now bringing on the rest of the digital banking, savings, deposits, the whole thing you'd expect from a digital bank. And then just ran headfirst into like regulation, you know, as I'm sure you've got like 4,000 licenses. So
I wish.
You know this world. Like, so we had to, we were like, okay, we'll just do a partnership. Yeah, that's how you do it.
Just get a quick bank really quickly to like give you a partnership.
That's it. We'll just sit on top of your license and we'll do our thing and you can hold our deposits and pay us money for them and everything. Simple on paper, but you know, sometimes you don't know until you don't know. And like you get, the first conversation is always positive, I found. We tried it with 3 banks here, 4 maybe. Probably 8, I'd say, first conversations, 4 like seriously tried. And 1 that was really, you know, going for it. So 2020 happened. Already things were kind of tricky in the credit space because you got COVID happening. No one knows what way is up.
Whoever those 8 banks were, you made a big mistake. But yeah, like, you know, so go on.
Agreed. We're coming for you though. So yeah.
I didn't say you were coming for you. You did, so you can come for him. I'm teasing.
So yeah, it's like we raised money, which is great. And we actually raised money like just as COVID had started hitting, which is so fortunate. Did our seed round. Literally, I think it was like March like 18th. It was a Friday evening at 5 p.m. Got an email like we're in for like X amount, round was closed. And I was like, who the hell's backing the company right now? Like they've just like stopped the world. But luckily we did. Like great, digital bank Kenya, super simple. Everyone agrees, high level makes sense. The guy, you know, they're building a business, it's working, they're making money, etc., etc. And then started on the path of licensing. And like I say, got down to 1 partnership, 1 that almost worked, didn't work. Second one was looking good, like a bank that was here, not a big one, like a medium-sized bank. And it was just, there was no urgency.
As he's talking about this, it's giving me many flashbacks because we as Nala went to so many different banks, begging banks to work with us. And it was that first meeting, everyone was like, oh yeah, sounds amazing, let's do this, whatever. And then, you know, it falls apart. Even though you chase them, I've been to so many banks in East Tanzania, Kenya, Uganda, Rwanda, Ghana. Like, you know, we've spent so many hours trying to find these partnerships and very similar experience. And I think it's an experience that many fintech companies have. So it's not abnormal.
Yeah. Oh, I think it's so common.
Yeah.
I think it's so common.
Unfortunately, too common.
Yeah. It is. And we're like the BD people at the front are like, let's do it.
Yeah.
They're enthusiastic people. They're customer facing, customers being us. And then they run into the compliance department. They're not customer facing and they're not really up for this.
And their bonus at the end of the year is not even tied with like, enabling another fintech company. So they're not incentivized to help you build. And like, hey, look, is this going to make me look good at the organization? No. So like, why am I trying to go above and beyond my own? Like, I think many people are well-intentioned to want to support a lot of fintech and innovation at the banks. I think the challenge is the bank's incentives might not be aligned to enable that. And I think that's a huge problem because on the show, we talk about building the African continent, right? And what things, if you're a banker watching this, I think you have massive influence to enable, like here you have 2 companies that move a lot of money within the region. And neither of us both of us have struggled massively with bank partnerships. And I think that's, if you work at a bank or know somebody who works at a bank quite senior, please make technology a priority, especially becoming an enable environment for a lot of tech companies to build on top. Sorry, back to your...
Which, by the way, long term, I think is what we may end up doing.
Yeah.
If it's so hard to get in here and the licenses are so limited that we actually might do, you know, open up our, like what Starling do in the UK, open up our APIs for everyone.
Yeah.
Because it's goddamn tricky.
I know we've talked about that too.
Yeah. So yeah, look, that was 2020. It was all very enthusiastic at the start. We're building, you know, we're being ready. We've got like the product built that can hold deposits, that can do savings, fixed deposits. So we're busy, but then it's kind of getting into like, I remember it was August. And just the calls with the bank and their CFO and everything were always good, but it wasn't moving. And we were really getting a bit worried.
By the way, August 2021 was when we first met. And then we were going through our massive pivot at that time. And we were sitting down and we met and caught up. But he was going through this, I was going through this. I was like, yo,
it's crazy.
Like,
man.
I'm not sure how we'll raise money. Like, we didn't have money.
It was so crazy. And then I remember we took a week because I was starting to lose faith. And what maybe isn't obvious for the audience is, you've raised your seed round.
Yeah.
So you now have employees. You're now paying people.
Every month, and there's no money coming in.
Right. And your ability to make money is not there. So we have a credit business, but like it's COVID, so it's really tricky to try and scale that. We need to show progress in this bank thing, and we're having the board meeting. It's like, how's that going? And I just got to be honest, I'm like, not very good. I can't talk to the central bank because you need to be a registered entity to do that. So there's a wall between us, and that's this bank, and they have no urgency.
Yeah.
Right? One guy does, but the rest of the bank don't. And we had to sit down for a week. And I remember there was a lot of conflicting opinions. And I was definitely firmly on, like, I don't see this happening this side of Christmas. I don't see it. I feel like every month it's going to be the same thing. And we looked at, okay, do we hack around it? Do we just take a load of risk and just launch in Kenya with a thing that holds deposits and hope for the best? And that's a bad idea. People do that all the time, and it's a temptation in fintech, move fast, break things. But in banking, it's probably not a great idea. People have done it, and it's not worked out very well, especially here. And then we debated what we do, and it was really, really tough because a lot of people said, let's hang in there and let's do it. And it was really like a week, and it's rarely we do that. Like, we down tools for a week and sit down and try and figure it out. And people are passionate, so like some people are saying, like, this is what we came to do. We're building a digital bank for Kenya. We're going to have to do it. But then there's the real world, which is like, we're going to have to raise again at some time soon, and we're going to need revenue that's growing. And we are setting out, and we want to build a digital bank for Africa. Now, this is our first market, but it was always designed to be Pan-African. Like, on the first line of code I wrote, it was multi-currency, right? It could do, it can handle different rails. It was built to be modular, right? So it's like, we always planned on going more than one market. So like, we got to take a look at some of the markets here. And like, the more we talk to our lawyers, we're learning, like, Kenya is just heavily, heavily regulated. And just to give you the context, like I mentioned, there's 14 microfinance bank licenses. They haven't issued a new one in a long time. We applied for a license as well in parallel. We tried to get a license. So we're like, partnership and license are both moving. But then they're like, there's been no license here for 10 years. Like, you're not getting one.
Wow.
Yeah. So anyway, we get through it. And
you get through it. You didn't get the license in Kenya at that time.
No.
But you're like, have to make this hard decision on what you guys are doing next.
And there's sleepless nights. And we're like, I don't know what we're doing here. We've raised money. We've made a lot of promises.
And then you're paying people salaries here, and there's no customers, and there's no revenue coming to the business, and you've got to make this hard call as a CEO.
Yes. And some people in the business who are working on the product are like, things are great. Building this bank, like, like, over here, I'm smiling on my face. We're walking out, like, everything's great, but in that room, God, it's like, it's tense. It's just really hard to figure it out. So we basically had to make a tough decision where we just called it on the Kenya thing and said, what we're doing right now, well, it's certainly not going to get us where we need to be to get our next round done, to keep building momentum, to be able to, like, realize our vision. This is the hole we die in, right? If we keep waiting around for this. So what we did was we diligenced a number of countries, went to our lawyers, got our teams to start looking at, multiple markets, suitability, licensing regimes, ability to operate, legal entity set up, just a number of factors. And then stuff like, GDP per capita, et cetera, did a lot of places. Looked at Tanzania, looked at Uganda, looked at many, many countries. And then because of the amount of fintech innovation happening in Nigeria, it became the very clear winner for where we needed to go. So it was pretty amazing effort from the team, I have to say. I got back into programming again. I was like, we're doing this. We got the legal set up. We got partnerships in place. We got our SMS going. We got lucky in some places, like Smile Identity, who are good friends of ours, and they're a KYC partner, are in both markets. You get a couple of things go your way. So like, our way to create an account was the same. And we just started working on all this stuff, got our infrastructure together, and just, because you think about it, right, the core banking system's here, but the on-ramps and off-ramps could be M-Pesa, could be debit cards, could be the Nigerian banking switch. So we just were like, okay, it's like September, August made the decision. September, it's like, let's put the foot in the gas, let's build this thing.
As fast as possible.
On-ramps, off-ramps, KYC, SMS, whatever, make it all work, fork the marketing stuff, fork a lot of things, right? And then we got live in Nigeria, like, I'd say it was like the 3rd of January. It was a long Christmas, Wow,
that's so impressive. So you made this hard call to all right, let's pause on Kenya. We can't get this license. It's really frustrating. Banks aren't helping us. Now let's go to Nigeria. How did that turn out for you?
Yeah, like I said, I mean, the team was just like, okay, we get it. And there was that urgency because it's already, we're August, September 2020. So yeah, they were amazing. We all just got into it. Like there's so many things you got to do. It's ridiculous. And then yeah, Jan 2021, we're live now.
You mean?
Jan 21. So it's 2020 that all these decisions happened.
Right.
So like you got the whole COVID backdrop as well,
Yeah.
which, you know, what's going on. And then, we got into the market, the software worked, a couple of teething issues obviously at the start, and got active, got operating. And it was like, from there it was booming, which is amazing. It validated that customers wanted the full experience. There had been lenders that had come before. There had been savings apps, but it was like bringing it all together.
What are some of the biggest challenges about lending in Nigeria?
Absence of data, thin credit files, identification's tricky. Identification's tricky here as well. There's issues with images in the national database. Fraud, like every fintech business, it's challenging. It's not, you're not just coming into a place where everything's set up for you and you just kind of like, you're a marketing company. Like you're building a lot of tech. I've worked on anti-fraud stuff myself, of stuff that's come in that we've had to fix. So like there definitely are headwinds, but ultimately at the same time, there's a market there that really wants your product.
What do you think you guys have done better in Nigeria than other, let's say, Nigerian fintech companies?
I think we've executed well. I think we've built a good product. And, I think the market's so big as well. I think sometimes we'll talk to people and they go, oh, there's other digital banks, right? But I just worry about keeping our customers happy, making our product better all the time. And honestly, it's very freeing. And as long as you're growing and you're not missing the future, you've not missed something big, then you keep your customers happy and build with them, it's worked, as I'm sure you know. So we don't worry so much about that. And ultimately, we think that we should all be able to win and that there'll be a few legacy banks that will lose. So our competition isn't even others. It's actually larger banks that, make you come into the branch and sign 20 forms or whatever. So ultimately, I think there's a lot of winners here. And the other thing about it is as well, what's really important for us, and it's always been what we've built for, is just being Pan-African. We fundamentally believe that if we can do it right in a market, we should do it right in a couple of markets. Not that there aren't major differences. Think about Nigeria, a lot of cash, a lot of cards, a lot of bank transfers. Kenya has very little of all those three things. All M-Pesa pretty much. You see most places aren't accepting cash, right? So that's what you're building for. So it's a mindset shift. People think about things differently. They kind of treat M-Pesa as a bank account in a way, but then we've got to educate them that actually the interest rates are really high on those loans and the interest rates are really low on those savings accounts. So you should come bank with us. Use it as a payment mechanism for sure, but just understanding that there's better alternatives out there. But yeah, I think that's the thing. We're not taking on each other in many ways. There'll be a couple of winners in the banking space, and you'll end up with publicly listed banks, but some of them are less than 10 years old and some of them are first bank that are 100 and something years old, So yeah, like focus, just keep your customers happy. Yeah.
So from Nigeria, you guys finally made it full circle and back to Kenya.
We did.
And I saw the news, you guys bought 51% or majority stakeholder.
66%.
66%.
0.6.
Okay, 66.6% stake in Daraja, microfinance bank here in Kenya.
Yes.
How did that come about? I mean, by the way, we're sitting with a microfinance bank CEO over here. So if you want a loan, feel free to email him after you sign up for Umba and use Umba. But yeah.
Yes. And if you're an SME, we do payroll, we do payments, we do lots of SME products as well. So actually, SME is actually a big part of our business here in Kenya. Just to let you know.
So so tell me about this journey of buying a bank. Like who just goes and wakes up as this kid from Ireland coming to Kenya, I'm going to buy a bank?
It wasn't until I tried everything else. Let me tell you that much. It was never my intention, because that jump from like zero to buying a bank would never happen instantly. It took a while, and it was just like banging it against every wall. And then realizing, okay, this is where we are. We're not getting a license new. The banks aren't going to really work with us. There's not really much incentive. It's a big risk. Investing time and not getting a return. So we've got to go our own way, and we're not giving up on this. And there is a benefit. We're like, okay, so we're finding it this hard to get a license. Everyone else must be too.
100%.
Right. There isn't a digital bank here. There's like 4 in Nigeria, 5. I'm sure there's probably 10 if you include the small ones. So like, this could be an advantage. And we're here, we're early, and we're building for this market. So in parallel with the, bet the company on Nigeria, we started down the process of this, and we just got lucky. I mean, when you're here long enough, you get whispers.
Yeah.
You hear that someone's for sale, because these things are, you don't just knock on the door of a microfinance bank and you buy them out. You hear someone's distressed or whatever. Oh, they're not meeting their customers' deposits. So that's what happened with Daraja. And the nice thing about it is there's a small list. It's 14 banks, 14 microfinance banks. So we heard about it through the whispers, and we moved quite quickly to speak with them. And we very quickly said that we were extremely keen to get them into an exclusive heads of terms right away. Because we felt there was an opportunity there. We had really good numbers in Nigeria, so we were able to do a Series A. So we had money, we had money coming. So we were able to get into a process, and then as part of that raise in Series A, we're we have a heads of terms here with a microfinance bank.
Nice.
Right. So now we need this money because we're going to spend quite a bit of it on this purchase. So then we went about it, but it took, let me think about this. That was probably 2021. Yeah. And we opened our doors June this year, 2023. Yeah. So that took a long time, 2.5 years. So a lot of people come to me now and they want to get in the market quick. Yeah. I'm like, join the queue, pal. We were a long time ago. Yeah, it's a long game. It is. And it ain't getting any easier as far as I can tell. Yeah. So that was it was kind of amazing. It was surreal, to have that come through. Yeah. And it was incremental. We got the approval and gazetted. We got shares changed hands in December last year, December 30th. Then we got gazetted. We got gazetted by the central bank, and that's when TechCrunch wrote about it. And we didn't even know about that. Usually you work for coverage, and you do the whole press release and all that kind of stuff. And then we're someone's like, oh, you're in TechCrunch. They were like, what? And they found whoever found the Kenyan Central Bank Gazette, and it's Umba's bought 66.6% of this bank. Yeah. So then it got real because everyone knew about it. We weren't going to talk about it straight away. Yeah. Everyone knew about it, and then we're like, yeah, this is happening, But yeah, what a journey. And then it was just, for us, it was kind of a homecoming because we had done the bank in Nigeria was growing and it was going really well. Product was built, so we had a lot of stuff going for us now. And then we were able to open our doors here, and it's been amazing, to get into the market.
I want to go to the personal side of you and get to know you a little bit better. What matters to you most in life and why?
Whoa, that's a big question. That is a big question. You really just got to go straight for that one, yeah? Okay. I suppose, I think relationships, when it gets down to it, probably is what matters the most. If you strip it all away, achievement, I think is, as an entrepreneur, that's a big part of it, right? Achievement's great. You hit a milestone. Like you said last night about your first remittance into Kenya. That's a big goosebumps, adrenaline thing. And those things are great, but they can be also short-lived. Now you're doing thousands of them, and it's not giving you adrenaline anymore, right? Because you're here. So those achievements are great. And as an entrepreneur, you're pushing for those things. But at the same time, it comes down to relationships, right? That's what matters now, 10 years from now, 50 years from now, we're hopefully still sitting here. I think that's a big part of life. I think that's where I get energy from. And if you talk to anyone who knows me, I get massive FOMO. I can't miss anything, because if I know people that I love are in a certain place, I want to be there. It's a family trait for sure. So I think definitely relationships, friends, family. I'm from a family of, I have 5 siblings, and I think I have 50 first cousins. My dad has 9 siblings and my mom has 5. Wow. So we're just all over the place. I probably couldn't name all my cousins. I probably shouldn't admit that. But I probably couldn't. I definitely couldn't, actually. Yeah. We get 2/3. Yeah. So yeah, it's that's it. That's a big part of it. Is relationships and family, and making sure that you're making people's lives better in some tiny way just by being around and enthusiastic and supportive and all the other things. So yeah, I think that's it for me.
As an entrepreneur, and even being far away from family, you're 10,000 plus miles away from your loved ones, and a lot of your loved ones. How do you balance that out, given how important relationships are to you?
Yeah, Yeah, it's a good question. Definitely far from home. But also, firstly, you know, you build a family where you are, right? You know, you want to immerse yourself in the culture. You want to, you know, whether it's people you're working with, all of our staff that like, you know, everyone that I work with in both offices, both in Nairobi and in Lagos. And then like over time you build a community. And in some ways it's nice to be challenged, to be like in a new city. Like I'm living in Nairobi now and, you know, you're starting from scratch, but it's a challenge. It's out of your status quo. It's you're building and you're trying new things and you've got to get out there and meet people. And that's really good. Like we had an event here, you know, last night that you guys put on and lots more connections, lots more people that have all got an interesting story. And then the second thing is, you know, Ireland's a nation of immigrants. So we've had, you know, since going a long way back, we've had immigration, right? So Great Famine, 1 million people died, 1.5 million people left to the US, to the UK, majority in Australia in a big way. So like a lot of Irish families, it's, you know, like I'm from the 6 of us and 1 of us lives in Ireland and 5 of us live out internationally. You know, so it's actually quite common, like Christmas is coming up, we'll all be going home and half the people I'll meet over Christmas are actually living abroad. So like it is actually something that we've, as a small island with a lot of immigration, have kind of come to be a part of our lives in a way. And let's be honest as well, technology has made our lives easier. FaceTimes, WhatsApp calls, like the thing about the concept of paying for an international call, if it's like you're getting charged whatever it was, €1 a minute to call home, like that's painful, but like a WhatsApp call is easy. You know, so things have gotten a little bit closer too.
Have your parents supported you a lot in your journey?
Yeah, massively. They're like so not stressed, and they should have been many times. Like, do you know what I mean? Like they have never been, they've not been those kind of parents who are like, you know, I guess like you got to do this or do that, or like you shouldn't quit your job in New York that's paying you really way too much and do this thing, which is not going to pay you for a long time. Super supportive. Like they're just kind of, I guess, relaxed people, and it helps if you've got like 5 siblings distracting them. But yeah, like they've always been supportive. And Are
you closer to your mom or your dad?
It's different things. So for me and Dad, it's like sport, it's Liverpool, it's Guinness.
Oh man, Liverpool, killing me.
Top of the league right now. I'm glad we're recording today. We're top of the league. United lost 3-0 yesterday.
We won't talk about that one right now.
Arsenal lost, Liverpool won again. So yeah, for me, Dad, it's like sports. My dad's crazy. He's like 76 years old, still plays soccer every Thursday.
Wow.
New hip and everything, out there playing soccer. So like there's that bond, and then there's like Guinness and Dirty Nelly's, our local pub, and there's just like, he's so interested in the business every time. I can't get on the phone for less than 20 minutes with him because he's got questions about the business, about me, which is great. And then Mom's the opposite. She's like, I call her, look, I'm going to keep this quick. I'm on the way to somewhere. I'm like, cool, we'll catch up. And then with her, it's long walks across Clare. That's our thing. We go out hiking and whatever else. And she's like a very busy person, like running around doing everything. And our relationship is more, she probably drives me a little bit more, I would say. And it's more, I guess, like when I get back, she's like, what's our itinerary? Like, what are we doing? Are we going hiking these hills next weekend? Are we doing X, Y, and Z? And that's our relationship. So I couldn't choose either. They're just different. Yeah.
If they were in this room right now and...
They'd be sweaty. It's hot in here.
It is very warm in here.
It's a lot of lights. It's a lot of lights, yeah.
If Mom and Dad were in this room right now and here in Nairobi, what would you tell them?
Caribou Sana, firstly, obviously. And then, I don't know, I think they'd be, I don't know if I would tell them anything, but I think they'd be pretty happy with what we're doing here. You know, we're doing something pretty ambitious, definitely. And it's a little bit unexpected for sure, but I think they'd be pretty happy with the whole thing. Definitely took about probably 2.5 years until my mom really knew what I did, or really like had, you know, something to do with tech, and then it was in the newspaper in Ireland once, and it was like Bank Africa, and then it clicked, and she's like, I get it now. You're like the credit union I you know, get car loans from. I'm like, yes.
That one.
Exactly. Pretty much that. It's like, I'm like, we got an app. So now she's kind of come around to it, and she finds it quite exciting.
Yeah.
You know, so I think they'd be pretty happy. I know what I'd say to them. I'd probably just show them around the place, you know, show them the whole country.
Yeah. How does it feel to be a foreign founder here in Nairobi, where, you know, in Kenya, so often you see in like articles online, it was like, oh, you know, only white founders can raise money in Kenya. And, you know, it's not really the story you see in Nigeria, but, you know, sometimes obviously when you read some of these articles, it doesn't give a great feeling just generally, right? And it's not, you know, it doesn't make you feel great. I'm assuming, at least for me, it wouldn't, right? And, you know, how do you merge that mentally, and how do you personally like, carry yourself with that and knowing that?
Yeah, no, it's very interesting. And it's definitely more so, like you said, more of a thing in Kenya than it is in Nigeria, because Nigeria's got a more developed ecosystem and there is much more venture happening there, local VC firms and everything else, which is happening, which is good. But yes, I've definitely seen it online. I've been fortunate where it hasn't been a major issue for us. We've just been like focused on building and getting stuff done. But yeah, I get it. I'm an Irish person. Like, I'm not from here. You know, I stand out like a sore thumb in certain places. But what I found is actually quite the opposite. People have been super welcoming. Like, often, like, I'm chatting to like Uber drivers, right? We're just like going somewhere and like, they'll be like, oh, wait, like, what's your story? You're in Kenya. I'm like, yeah, I moved here, like, set up a company here. And like, they're like, oh, you moved to Kenya to set up a company? I'm like, yeah. And they're like, any connection? I'm like, no, just like, love it here, like, set up a company here. And they're like, they love the fact that I've come here and set up a business, you know, and that's outside like tech, Twitter or whatever else. But, you know, I think that's really positive that, you know, someone who doesn't have much of a connection has decided we're going to come here. We employ like 55 people in Nairobi and Lagos, you know, and I think that's really, really positive that, like, people don't complain if I go to America and start a company. Do you know what I mean? I think we should be encouraging people to come in and like invest in this country, employ people. Like, if you look at Paystack, right? They came in, they're like kind of OG in Nigeria. And now you got the Paystack mafia that are doing their own companies. Like, the more we employ and have high tech jobs happening here with these companies, the more we're spinning off local entrepreneurs. And Nigeria, as it's a little bit further ahead, you can see that people have come out of these bigger companies and built fintech. So for me, I think it's a positive, and it's actually only really been positive that I've decided to go all in on Kenya, Nigeria, invest all my time here. And the other thing I'll say on the side of having worked here for a while, going to like VC events here now and stuff, I'm seeing lots more local VCs. I'm seeing lots more stuff happening where VCs who know what they're doing are investing cleverly. Because we've seen there's a bit of craziness happen. A lot of VCs didn't know what they were doing and came in with big rounds and then they've pulled back. That's not sustainable. Whereas I've seen now, someone's raised either their Africa fund, like QED, or now we've got their
Jibenga, who's
exactly
Africa,
and they've got more of that happening, and lots more local VCs. And like, you've got Partech, and you've got like a lot of players that have just raised fresh rounds. Norskin just did a fresh round, you know, a fresh like fund. So that's positive as well, because that gets local ecosystems going. But so far, I think it's ultimately what you want is people coming here and going all in on this market.
What's the worst question a VC has asked you about your business or about the African continent?
It's hard to say, like, I have nothing succinct for you that really, that I can think of off the top of my head. I've had super high level, like, passes on the business, right? You're talking to investor, it's a quick phone call, someone interests you, it's like, they're like, Africa smartphones, I don't see it. You're like, have you looked at any of the stats? Have you looked at like the 250 million people getting their first smartphone in the next 3 years? Like, no, I don't see it. I think that market's going to remain kind of like a really difficult market to crack. I'm like, you're just ignoring every piece of information that's out there. You know, it's a very ignorant kind of view that you get from certain investors. But like, honestly, you know, it doesn't work for either party in that situation. You know what I mean? So yeah, I think that one, just the offhand, like, I don't see this market ever developing. It's like ridiculous. So, you know, that's just certain people, you know?
So as you look in, what's next for you guys in 2024? As you like, you know, we're bringing in the new year. What's next? What's coming up? What are you hoping to achieve in this new year?
Yeah, so look, we're fortunate in the fact that Nigeria is growing really, really nicely. Has been all year. We just got it figured out. It's working very, very nicely. It's a more mature business. It's 3 years in Nigeria come January.
Wow,
keeps going well. Touch wood, you know. Then Kenya's a focus, obviously. I moved here about a year ago to really be hands-on with managing the bank here, because definitely it's a relationship game when you're running a bank, central banks and big depositors and big customers. So for Umba, it's all about getting our second market as mature as our first, proving that we can perform really, really well here, and then building like a mass market brand. Like we're starting in SME, we're kind of like lower volume to start with, but then we go mass market, which would be really, really interesting. And there's a couple things that I won't talk about now, but that are coming that are very interesting for our SME customers. We've been talking a lot with our customers in SME, and there's just so much. Compared to Nigeria, there's the one place where people unprompted say, I hate my bank. I swear. I don't bring it up. I don't say I have a digital bank. I don't say anything. Like, there's a friend of mine just 2 days ago talking. She's like, I spent 3 hours on a Friday making payments.
Yeah, gosh.
She's like, I don't know the difference between PaySlink and RTGS. I'm like, you shouldn't have to. They should be saying, do you want fast and cheap, or like slow, or fast and expensive and slow and cheap? But they don't. They just make it difficult. And I'm like, this is like music to my ears that you hate it. So starting to provide a better alternative. Because like I said earlier, Family Bank, I don't know if I should name them, but anyway, their strategy next year is build more branches. More branches equals more customers. We're like, absolutely not. One branch that's legally required by central bank, digital onboarding across the entire country. That's our vision, and that's what we're going to do, and that's why we feel we're better at what we're doing than what they're doing. And it's all about just delivering a great customer experience here. And then ultimately, we obviously want to have a team in the Kenyan Premier League. That's the dream.
Wow, amazing.
Umba United is kind of working title, but that is what we need. Because KCB have a team, right? KCB have a team in the Premier League. So that, like, the long-term vision is we get to a point where that actually makes sense. And that would be a great day for us. Be good staff nights out, go to the game.
Go to the game really quickly and enjoy. What do you fear the most in your industry?
In our industry? I guess you've pretty big banks with a lower cost of capital that you wonder maybe they could figure out fintech. That is a concern, because like their cost of capital is low. And just to explain for people who may not know, it's like some customers you pay for deposits, you pay interest on a savings account. Some customers put it in their current account. All that money gets lent anyway. So some people are giving you 0% deposits, and you can lend it at 10, 20, whatever, on vehicle financing or whatever it is. So those guys have a low cost of capital and huge amount of customers that will just leave their money there. And we got to build that. If they figured out how to do fintech, then that's tricky, right? But the way we see it is we kind of figure out how to bring in more customers much quicker than that happens. And I know C-suite people in big banks, and their lives are just dealing with complexity of systems, and it's a disaster. So like, I think we should be okay. And then obviously the world, like VC has pulled back because the public markets are down. So there's been a mismatch in a lot of LPs kind of capital allocation. So that's had a pullback in VC. It's affected
so many companies.
A lot of companies, and for a lot of VCs, if they're like European or US, we are the kind of exotic the bets, and we're definitely the ones that you probably wouldn't be doubling down on. You're like, okay, if we're attracting, we're going to go on our core focus.
And what we understand best,
Yeah, exactly. But luckily, like I said, there are some funds, some good funds here that are active. So that's a concern, but let's hope we're through the worst of it.
All right, so he's mentioned Liverpool a few times in this conversation. So I have to ask these questions. Why Liverpool?
I had no choice. All of my family, all the 6 kids, support Liverpool because my dad loves Liverpool, because he was growing up through all of the 70s and 80s where he won like 16 league titles, European Cup many times, like Kenny Dalglish, all the big icons, Ian Rush. So like when we were born into like Liverpool jerseys,
Wow.
Yeah, massively so.
So what do I have to convince you to finally come to the good side and join Manchester United?
So I'm actually going to Anfield next week to see Liverpool beat United. So
let's see if Liverpool beat United. When this thing comes out, it'll probably be after the game.
If United win, this could be a problem. But if United win, I'll consider it.
You consider? Okay, you consider. Hey, you've heard it here first. How about who's going to win the league this year? This is 2023 to 2024.
Right now, Liverpool are playing badly, but they're top of the league, which is very good, considering. If you're playing, you got off and play well. And
you got to give me a straight answer. Who's going to win the league?
Liverpool are going to win the league.
All right, I got a deal to make with you.
Yeah.
If Liverpool don't win the league, okay, next year, on your birthday, for half the day, you have to wear a Manchester United jersey.
I'll do it. Yeah, I'll do it.
Deal?
Yeah, you gotta have conviction. You gotta have conviction in these things.
If they don't win
8th
the
of
league,
September next year,
8th
you'll
of
see
September
me.
in a Manchester United jersey.
I'll lock myself in my room. You know,
Just,
won't go to my own party.
No, there has to be a picture posted so we have proof that there's a.
The bed is growing legs after it's been done.
No. So deal?
Yeah.
All right, deal.
Yeah.
All right. That's gonna be an exclusive. All right.
This isn't being filmed, is it?
So quick fire round of questions here. St. Patrick's Day or Christmas?
Christmas, you get like 14 Patrick's Days back in Dublin. Unbelievable. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Game of Thrones or Breaking Bad?
I'm gonna go with Game of Thrones because the guy knows in it.
Oh,
so
wow.
yeah.
Wow, fascinating. If your life was one theme song, what would it be?
I'm just gonna go obviously with Eye of the Tiger.
Eye of the Tiger?
Come on, it's
Nice.
It's a classic.
Classic. What comfort food? I mean, food's important to me. You know, I'm always eating.
I've heard.
Yeah, you've heard.
You mentioned it.
Yeah. So what comfort food after a tough day?
Comfort food. I'm famous for loving carbonaras. I'm famous for loving a good carbonara.
Nice.
Yeah. So a really done well carbonara. There's a couple of tricks to it, but that would be absolutely comfort food. Yes.
All right. Favorite app on your phone that isn't Umba or any social media app?
And the Umba staging app is because that's got the bleeding edge stuff.
None of that.
Favorite app on my phone that isn't
Umba or any social media app?
Spotify.
Spotify.
Oh yeah.
Why?
Music.
Nice. Most interesting item on your bucket list? Apart from hoping that Liverpool wins the league.
There's no hope. We don't need to hope. We believe. You know, we believe. I'm considering, this is recent. It's a recent thing, but I think if I say it now, I kind of make it happen more. Do you know, like manifesting or whatever.
I love that. Yeah, I'm a big believer in that.
I think I'm going to try and get my pilot's license next year.
Wow.
Yeah, private pilot's license.
Wow.
Because over here, like there's a lot of that. Like there's lots of like airstrips everywhere out in Masai Mara and stuff. So I think next year I'm going to try and do that.
It's huge.
I hope I'm not watching this and it hasn't happened. So now I've really kind of
now you got to do it because you said it publicly and like, you know, your audience hold them accountable to it.
This show is just committing to doing things.
Yeah. Hey, it's all about building, right?
Yeah, that's it.
What is your favorite Swahili word and why?
Umba, because it means to grow or to create. And that's why we chose it. We had a different name to start out with. And then we did this whole process and we just looked around for interesting words. And Umba, I think, it kind of typifies what we're doing, which is you want to grow your wealth or to create, you know, if you're a small business or you're a person. So for me, that's a kind of obviously a special word.
Back to sports for a second. I know this is not a Liverpool player, or neither of them are. Ronaldo or Messi?
As a Liverpool supporter, it's Messi. Yeah, Ronaldo played for United. So
well, listen, that's the on that
also,
note.
Also, Messi is. I mean, let's think about it. He's at Miami. He's smashing it. Like he's doing unbelievably well.
Yeah.
The World Cup was amazing. Yeah, like I mean, you got to give it to Messi. He's the best of our generation. Yeah.
I disagree, but you know,
really,
slide Ronaldo all day. Anyway, important football question, because in January and February it's the African Cup of Nations.
Yeah.
Which African team do you think will win the African Cup of Nations?
I think Nigeria have got a good chance actually. I know they lost to Ghana last year.
You don't think Tanzania is going to win?
Tanzania are good at lots of things, okay? They're good at lots of things.
But
I just don't think it's your year. No, I just don't think so.
Yeah. This will be our year. Don't worry. Team Tanzania, I'm with you.
United in Tanzania, that's a tough draw you got over there.
Yeah. Cool. Well, ladies and gentlemen, Thierry, thank you so much for being on the show today. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in. I really hope today you could learn about Tiernan's journey, building Umba, some of the challenges he's faced, and where they've been. And Tiernan, I wish you all the best and all the success as you continue to help build and enable the African continent to do business better, but also enable this digital bank you're building across Pan-Africa.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It's been great to come on. I'm glad we did this, and also welcome to Nairobi.
Thank you. Cheers.